Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Ace Football Academy. Coach Hamilton alongside Coach Dunham, as always. Coach, we were all set to record an episode. We had done our research, we were excited about it, and I got a hit on my phone from an article on ESPN.com. So, major network was not something that we found just digging around. Jeff Kassouf wrote an article titled, now I don't have it up, but it was titled No Morgan, No Rapinoe. The U.S. women's national team has no face of the team now. Which player will step up? You and I spent about 5 minutes unbelievably angry, probably
It cracked a nerve in both of us.
Yeah, irrationally angry about this.
Just the title itself got us,
Yeah.
sparked us.
And then we read the article, and it gets worse as it goes on.
Yeah.
And so we decided, hey, let's change our episode and let's respond to this article by Jeff Kassouf. Now, you and I we had to look him up. He looks like he is a big time writer for them. He's a lead writer, does all of their NWSL stuff. Clearly does some of their national team stuff as well. So I guess but ultimately we think his article is wrong on many levels. So I guess we should just dive in. And his ultimate argument is that since Morgan and Rapinoe left, there's not been a player on this team capable or willing to step into the face of the team. And if you don't not watching this on YouTube, I just gave the air quotes.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, he does mention that the team is young, which is fairly true. But to say there's no face, and I believe he's implying that we want a face to put all over the magazines, all over the digital articles, for to say, oh, I know who Alex Morgan is. Yeah. I know who Megan Rapinoe is. Two individuals that are attractive and are very well known to stand up for certain social issues or speaking out on women's rights or something along those lines. Okay, I get where you're coming from in that perspective, but I don't know that I feel that that's what the article is getting at.
Well, and to the first point you made, he mentions the youthfulness, and you're right. Since Emma Hayes has come in, they have been very youthful. They've brought up 23 first-time players just since Emma Hayes has been here. They started the youngest group in like 25 years or something against Brazil the other night, which they won, by the way, 2-1. So yes, you are correct. They are very young, but that team at its core, and this is what we're going to get into, that team at its core is players that even the average soccer fan has heard of.
Absolutely.
And so I think for him, I think one of our biggest issues, and we'll get into this in a little bit, is that why does there have to be a face? Why can't it just be hey, I'm going to say Sophia Smith, but I think she did just get married. Didn't we just talk about that?
That is correct.
I am so sorry.
There have been a few that have been married over the last few years.
Sophia Smith, if you're listening to this, I am so sorry. I don't know your new wedded name, but there are players like Sophia Smith and Trinity Rodman and Rose Lavelle and Naomi Girma who, if I say those to anybody,
Mallory Swanson,
they're playing at big time clubs. They're playing in big time matches. I mean, hell, they just won a gold medal. And to tell me that there's no face of this team, I find it ridiculous.
Well, I think what we're lacking is him getting more in depth on what he wants to see as the face. And I think our argument is, I don't want to have a face.
Right.
There doesn't need to be one person. And the point that he points out is Alex Morgan. This is kind of what irritates me, and this is kind of my perspective. that I don't have anything to back it up with, but Alice Morgan was a beautiful woman.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She was very active as far as women's rights, equal pay, and she wasn't afraid to speak out about it. The same with Megan Rapinoe. Yeah. Megan Rapinoe was not afraid to speak her mind. And I feel it's very misogynistic to feel that the beauty is required along with the guts to speak out in public. Mm-hmm. To me, the face of a club is the star power on the field.
Correct.
Who's winning the games for your team?
Yep.
Who's standing up for their players during the games? Even off the field, they're all about their teams. Whether it be their club team or their national team, they're all about their players and standing up for them. And I feel like the players there are doing that.
Yeah.
Just because they're not on every single magazine, well, I take that back. They kind of are, but it's a multitude of them.
Yeah.
That are being on these magazines.
Well, and even to your point of standing up and being out there socially or publicly, as soon as Emma Hayes got hired, if everybody remembers, they dealt with that Corbin Albright.
Yep.
Corbin Albright issue where she had made some comments about anti LGBTQ moments, and multiple players stood up in a microphone and said, yeah, that's not who we are as a team.
Yeah.
And Corbin apologized, and Emma Hayes, if you recall, Emma Hayes ended up bringing her back, and I'm sure there's some tension there, but it's worked out well. And for something like that to go smoothly, so smoothly that Emma Hayes came over. If you remember, Emma Hayes' tenure began late because she was finishing the year with Chelsea. Right. She didn't get here till like May or something, right? Something late. And then she goes 2 months later and wins the gold medal at the Olympics. And so you can't tell me that locker room isn't solid and built of leaders. And to what we're trying to say, it's not necessarily, Alex Morgan is our leader, or Naomi Gurman is our leader. It is, hey, we are all leading, and we will all keep you in check.
Well, I think the other side of that is, when the game's over, referring to the national team games, typically they're speaking to the star players, or the star player, and was Alex Morgan, or Megan Rapinoe, because they didn't mind being in front of the cameras. Well, if my memory serves me right, it's been Trinity Rodman. It's been Mallory Swanson. Yeah. It's been Sophia Smith. Rose Lavelle. Lindsey Horan.
We haven't even
Alyssa Nair.
We haven't even mentioned Lindsey Horan's name.
Numerous players are being spoken to post-match about, hey, how'd the match go? And they're all saying, we got the job done. We stepped up to the plate. We won the gold medal. It's not just one person that needs to be the superstar. And I think that's what makes this team so great.
Yeah.
Is that it's not just one person.
And not that, again, I am an Alex Morgan apologist, and everybody knows that who's listened to this show. She was my favorite women's national team player of all time. She was maybe the last true 9 that we will ever see in this game, in the women's game. But and I know that she and Rapinoe was the same. They always use the we, and we played great, or we didn't. We broke down in the midfield, or whatever it is, right? But I think when you watch this team play, they are truly doing it. Where I don't have to game plan to just shut down an Alex Morgan and then I got a shot to win a match, right? It is okay, if I shut down Sophia Smith, well, here comes Trinity Rodman down my throat. Okay, well, good thing I got 2 center mids, or center backs, because I'll mark one of them on Sophia Smith and one of them on Trinity Rodman. Well, here comes Rose Lavelle down the middle of the pitch, right? This team is built of leaders on the field, and we'll get to off the field leaders in just a second, but on the field, to your point, what you just said, you don't ever really know who they'll interview at the end of a U.S. women's national game now, because you don't know which one of them is going to pop off and be the quote unquote player of the match in that match, because there are so many different candidates to do that.
Well, and I think before I go any further, we're not knocking Alice Morgan or Megan
No.
Rapinoe anyway.
My
They
favorite
did
player.
a fantastic job.
She was my favorite player.
Setting the women's national team up
Yep.
for the future.
Yep.
Fighting for equal pay to get the national team players the money they felt that they deserved. When they were filling the stadiums,
Mm-hmm.
when they were selling tickets, probably more or just as much as the men's teams were. So they did their job and they paid their dues. What we're trying to say is, even though they did what they did, this generation's talent, there's so much more there.
Correct.
Alice Morgan was the face because she scored so many goals. Just like Abby Wambach scored so many goals.
Mia
So
Hamm.
she's going to be on all the magazines.
Yeah.
But now we've got a multitude of players that are just as talented and just as dangerous, where they're all the face of the women's national team.
Well, and so I'm gonna read a real quick paragraph from our friend Jeff's article that he wrote that leads into exactly what you just said. He says, during February She Believes Cup, Hayes sat down with Lindsay Heaps, Crystal Dunn, Emily Sonnet, Lynn Biendola. I'm assuming that's Lynn Williams.
Yeah, correct.
Tierna Davidson and Sam Coffey to discuss whether they see themselves as leaders and how that might not matter. That might not matter, she said, because their teammates view them as leaders anyway. What followed was weeks of conversations among players and staff around how to transfer the non-negotiables of work ethic and effort, and what she frequently calls the American DNA, to a new group of players trying to establish his own identity. Is that not 100% what you want? Where I can bring in 5 or 6 players and say, hey, look, you all are the veterans now. Or, hey, look, you all are on your way out. Or, hey, you got a couple of years, whatever it is, right? And you say, okay, what do we want to leave for that new group coming in behind you? What do we want to teach them? What do we want them to value? I mean, I don't need one face on the field. I don't know why Jeff is so concerned with having a single face. I mean, could we put Sophia Smith on the microphone and on the camera after every match? Sure, we could. But this team doesn't have to do that. And if you ask me, that is a good problem.
Yeah, and the other side of that, what you just read about there was, there doesn't need to be a reliance on the captain.
Yeah.
Lindsey Horan, who, by the way, is an intense individual to begin with, but speaks her mind when it needs to be done.
Right.
And I'm sure when it's needed in the locker room, she's taking care of business. The point we're trying to make here is there are multiple players that we feel are being relied on in the locker room to handle situations. Just like the Albright player. Clearly, there are multiple discussions with multiple players saying, we need to fix this.
Yeah.
We need to make this right. There's probably a game plan discussed. And I doubt it was all Lindsey Horan saying, step 1, step 2, step 3, everybody on board. Okay, let's go.
Yep.
I firmly believe it was a team discussion or a leaders discussion, that we firmly believe there were multiple leaders on this team to solve that situation. And I'm sure there are other situations that have occurred, but we don't need to see that all in the background.
Yep.
It doesn't need to be up in our faces. And what doesn't need to be in the media of, oh, well, this happened after a match. Who solved that problem? Well, we're not hearing about it happen because it's being resolved behind closed doors. That is the definition of true leadership on a team, where you don't hear about the problems because it's staying within the team.
What a fantastic point. We heard about that Corbin Albright issue, right? So that got out publicly, mostly because Corbin Albright's comments were public.
True.
And so, but since then, I mean, that happened, what, last summer? 2 summers ago?
I think it was a year and a half ago, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Have you heard any issues? No, and again, we're not saying that there aren't any issues. We're saying that there 100% are issues. In a professional sports team, you don't think that they're having daily arguments, daily issues, daily, hey, get your crap together moments? Of course they are. All of them do. But you're not hearing about them because that locker room right now is full of leaders.
Well, when you talk about negativity, most of the negativity is the poor behavior of the NWSL coaches or the owner staff.
Or Jeff trying to stir everybody up.
So we feel like the players are policing themselves, whether it be with the NWSL clubs or the women's national team. We're saying the women are taking care of the leadership on their own.
Yeah. And I feel like one of Jeff's arguments here, and we'll switch gears just a little bit here, was they don't have, Alex Morgan and Megan Rapinoe were so instrumental in the fight for equal pay for women athletes, and but I mean they won that fight ultimately.
True.
Mm-hmm. So now there's a new fight, and I think Crystal Dunn and Midge Purse are very vocal with their racial and gender equality.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, you may not hear it as often, but there are different issues that a lot of these players are battling for and are fighting for. It's just not a national story because Jeff chooses to write about things like the U.S. women's team has no leaders.
Yeah.
And so, but there are players on this team, and again, I just gave you 2 examples, but are doing really great things off the field that aren't being recognized publicly.
It's one of those issues where I feel like you hear what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And some things you're like, I don't feel like that's important, so I'm just going to switch that off.
Yeah.
Well, that's clearly not fair to the players that are on the team. This discussion doesn't need to rely just on the women's national team.
Agreed.
I mean, the NWSL has been doing very well as far as, they're expanding their teams.
Yep.
So the women's game is growing on its own, and that's due to the players on the field.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I just read another sentence in Jeff's article, and it triggered me again.
Read it to us, please.
Says Hayes appeared to use her platform to absorb and deflect the external pressures placed on a team full of young, talented players like Rodman, Jaden Shaw, and 17-year-old midfielder Lily Johannes.
Hmm?
She has preached patience as the group discovers its identity. And so, to me, that is even Emma Hayes saying, everybody needs to chill. We are just fine. We just won a gold medal.
Have we forgotten about that?
Literally, just won a gold medal. And now we're writing articles saying that this team lacks leadership and this team lacks a face of the franchise. And I think it is. I think it's ridiculous, as you can tell.
Well, here's my other perspective of this. Players get older.
Yep.
There is always a transition of the veteran moving out and the younger stars coming in, and everyone's, the quote-unquote making a name for themselves. I feel like they've already done that.
Yeah, agreed.
Not only are some of these players superstars on their club teams, they're superstars on the women's national team. They won a gold medal in the Olympics. And we've got the World Cup coming around. And I'm pretty sure Emma Hayes is going to have this team ready to go. They've proven they can get the job done.
Yeah.
I don't need one face. I don't need one superstar.
Do you think so? Let me just play devil's advocate here for Jeff and the people who agree with Jeff.
If you feel like it, sure.
Do you think it's because the shift is so drastic? I mean, I think just a couple of years ago, you and I were on this podcast talking about how old the U.S. women's national team is. Like, we had the oldest roster ever, and we were bringing back Megan Rapinoe, and we were bringing back Alex Morgan, and because we didn't feel like we had anybody behind them to step in and replace them.
Mm-hmm.
So now all of a sudden we went from 2 or 3 years ago being the oldest team in the FIFA rankings to the youngest team, and so people just aren't used to that much of a swing, right? Because it was, everybody loved Mia Hamm, and then everybody was able to love Abby Wambach.
Oh yeah.
And then everybody was able to love Alex Morgan, and then everybody was able to love Megan Rapinoe, and then so there's always been, to Jeff's argument, there has been that player, that face that we have gravitated towards, but in this age of what the U.S. women's team are doing, I think they're setting themselves up for even more success than they had with any of those players, because they're developing this team identity that is going to carry them through these next several years.
Do you know why Germany's always one of the top teams? Do you know why Brazil has always been one of the top teams? France, England? There's always that wave of young players rolling in, pushing those veterans, saying, hey, I'm right here.
Get it done, or I'm coming.
I'm right here knocking on your door. Yeah. That's why they're on top, and that's why we love Emma Hayes and what she's doing.
Yes.
She's bringing in this young talent and developing them and saying, don't be afraid of those veterans.
Yeah.
Learn from them. Yeah. And
then
keep pushing them to be better, because
take their spot.
You're going to be the future here.
Yeah.
This is why you and I read that article, kind of lost our minds, because we're seeing the youth movement come in.
Yeah.
There's a natural transition of veterans moving out, youth moving in. That's how you maintain that dynasty of being perennial Olympic gold winners, World Cup winners, or any other term you're getting into.
Yeah.
That's how you maintain that top tier status.
And there was no quote unquote rebuilding phase, right? Because of where you are, who is coaching you. They went from winning with old people to winning with young people with no in between. We didn't have mediocre seasons. Someone might admit that last the last World Cup was disappointing for us, right? Mm-hmm. With all those quote unquote faces of the team. I don't know. I am so excited about where this team is going, and I think Jeff's article is really off base.
We firmly believe he's missed the point of what Emma Hayes is developing.
Correct.
He's hanging on to what Alex Morgan or Megan Rapinoe did and saying, okay, who's going to keep doing what they did? Well, it's a new era.
Yeah.
We got people doing different things. They're supporting different issues. Everybody doesn't need to support what they did.
Yeah.
And they already won the battle of equal pay. Unless I'm wrong in that understanding. And if I'm wrong, I apologize. But I feel like there's a new wave and new issues that I think these players are dealing with. But you know what? They may not need a platform to stand up on and saying, hey, listen to me. Maybe they just need to do it on the field and say, look what I did. Look what we did.
Yeah. And Crystal Dunn and Mitch Purse, they are doing some good things off the field. But to your point, not everybody has to be angry about something all the time.
Thank you. I love that point.
It is.
Can we stop being angry all the time?
It is okay for this group of, 24 women to just go play soccer.
Love that.
And represent their country in a really dignified and respectful and winning way. There's nothing more than we like as Americans as winning. And they've done that. And so then we get this article that I feel like is just asking us, again, I told you, I read like the first half of the article, and I said, he posted this for clicks, and he got me. He got my click. Because if you look at the U.S. women's national team right now, and you're trying to create a problem, you're trying to create a narrative that's not even there, which is what he's doing with this article. He's trying to create a scene that, oh, well, this team doesn't have a leader. And that is bullshit. This team has multiple leaders that are ready to take us into the next several years. Again, they're the youngest team in FIFA right now. We're going to get to watch and win and learn with these players for several years coming.
Yeah, I think you hit it where we're trying to get at. We don't need them to fight some massive issue. There's enough nonsense going on in our country and around the world as it is. Can we just sit back and say, can't wait for this next game for the national team.
And again, if they I keep bringing up Crystal Dunn and Midge Purse because I have seen them and what doing. If they have something they're passionate about, I'm not telling them to what was the old Stephen A. Smith quote or something like "shut up and play ball" or something. Would never do that because they should use their platform. Yeah. They should use their gold medal to help make a change and a difference in the world. But that doesn't have to be the end-all, be-all. I can't speak for them, but I would assume that some of these girls just want to play soccer.
It can be that simple.
Yeah. Like, hey, I'm really good. The U.S. women's team has asked me to play for them, and I'm going to play my hardest. And in 2026, I brought you a gold medal. Or 2024, I brought you a gold medal. And in 2027, I'm going to try and bring you a World Cup.
As two coaches that deal with parents,
oh my gosh,
ridiculous expectations,
get into that.
Players, ridiculous expectations at times, or unwillingness to learn and adapt to what we're trying to teach. Do we need the chaos? Do we need to make chaos? Like I said, there's already chaos going on in our country and around the world. There's so much anger. Can we just sit back and not have an issue and just watch soccer?
And enjoy a team that's going to be really, really good over.
And know that I don't need to have one person to be the face of something to say it matters.
Yeah.
They've already shown that it matters.
Yeah.
It's been mattering for years as far as women's sports, and it's already exploding in the NWSL. So you and I are on the same page. Jeff has missed the point of what the national team has already done, and wants to make something out of nothing.
I mean, I don't need one face. I need a squad of girls, squad of players. Good grief, we didn't even talk about the men's national team and what a show they've been the past several years.
Yep.
Say, Jeff, you think there's any leaders in that locker room the past couple of years? But I don't need Trinity Rodman to go, okay, you know what, guys, I'll be the face. I'll go do it. No, I need them to be a group, be a team that has each other's back, ready to go to battle for each other, and it continues to produce wins on the soccer pitch.
Amen to that.
That's what this is all about. And if you make some good in the world, and if you change some things that aren't great, then that is awesome. But they don't need that pressure, and they don't need people like Jeff writing articles saying, well, they don't have a true single leader. Well, we don't need a true single leader, Jeff. We have 9 leaders. So
if not more.
Yeah, if not more.
If not more.
And so, again, we would love all of you. We will wrap this up by just saying we will post the link to Jeff's article. We will post the link to our response. We would love to hear. We would love to hear your thoughts. Are we, Dunham and I, way off base here? Do you think that every team does need that one face that we can always go to? Or do you agree with us where you think, hey, if I got a really solid team, then I don't need a singular face? So a lot of fun tonight, Coach. An episode we didn't plan on doing, but 30 minutes later, here we are. So it was a lot of fun. Coach Hamilton, Coach Dunham, we are the ACE Football Academy. Go kick some apes.